Tell me when you're ready.
We're rolling.
We're ready.
All right. Good afternoon. This is the meeting of the City's of Mobile's Board of Adjustment for Monday, March 1st, 2021. General procedures for this remote virtual meeting are as follows. When an applicant is called, staff will admit them and the concerned parties into the meeting. Once parties are all in the meeting, we'll go over the basic rules of the meeting, which are a maximum of 4 speakers in support, 4 in opposition, limit to 5 minutes each. And then we'll allow up to 3 additional if required, but at most occasions that's not necessary. And then we'll allow the board members to ask questions as they wish. And once the board has concluded their questions, I will then call the interested parties to speak. At the end of each speaker's presentation, I will again ask if there's any questions of the board. The applicant will be given an opportunity for rebuttal in accordance with the board's rules, which is a 2-minute time period. After the rebuttal, we'll close the public hearing and go into deliberation. After that, the board will render a decision, and the individuals and parties will be sent back to the waiting room, and then we'll move on to the other applications. As a reminder, it takes 5 members to vote in affirmation of a motion or for a denial. And we have, from my understanding, a quorum today. It takes 5 to affirm once again, and we have at least 6 in attendance. So we'll start with roll call. Mr. Davis?
Here.
Mr. Coleman? Okay, Mr. Coleman's absent at the moment. Mr. Golden?
Here.
Mr. Metcalf?
Present.
Mr. Milling?
Here.
Mr. Burrows?
Here.
And I'm William Guess, and that provides 6 members to hold the meeting. So we'll continue. All right, first is the adoption of the agenda. Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Can I have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries. The agenda is adopted as presented. All right, first on the agenda is an extension for 6322. This is 206 Carmel Drive East. And there is a request for a 6-month holdover, or excuse me, 6-month extension. Any questions of the board? All right, is the applicant in the waiting room?
I have Patrick Garstecki into the meeting, sir.
Okay,
Patrick, you hear us?
Hey, yeah, can y'all hear me?
yes,
Yes.
sir. Your name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Garstecki, 457 St. Michael Street.
Okay, and we have a request on your behalf for a holdover. Is that an extension?
Extension, correct.
Correct. Okay, any questions of the board for the applicant? Okay, is there anyone, Ms. Short, either in the waiting room in favor or in opposition to this application?
No, sir.
Okay, have we received any correspondence regarding this application?
No, sir.
No, we did not.
Okay. All right. Once again, any questions of the board? All right, the chair entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All
Thanks,
right.
guys.
If you'll, I'm not sure if the applicant's here for 6369. We've had written correspondence that they're requesting a holdover. Ms. York, is anyone in the waiting room either in support or opposition?
I do not believe so, although there is a person in the waiting room who I cannot identify as to what item agenda they are here for. I'm trying to find out about that, but I do not believe there is anyone, I do not have anyone on my list that is in the waiting room for this item.
About the applicant?
No,
Broken Camp. Okay, this is application 6369 regarding 453 Dexter Avenue. We have received a few comments. The council representative, Mr. Manzi, has also officially corresponded to the board regarding their recommendation for denial. And there's, I think, 5 individuals that have corresponded electronically in opposition as well. The applicant has requested formally a holdover. Did they request 30 days or did they require longer?
He only requested until the next meeting.
Okay.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Bert, did they give, did they say what they wanted to accomplish within that period?
Mhm.
No, they did not.
Okay.
Good.
Well, maybe it's time to reach out to the individuals that were in opposition and maybe address their concerns.
The applicant was provided with everyone's comments regarding his case. And for the record, I'll just read the names. Comments were received by Yolanda Thomas, Connie Pugh, the Board of Linecoff Historic District Neighborhood, Brenda Bolton, Jane Pina, Susan Schwartz, William Boswell, and Councilman Levon Manzi.
Okay.
Mr.
Bill, can I ask a quick question?
Yes, please.
Hey, Bert, Corey Broningkamp, is this an investment property or is he planning to live on this property? Do you know?
I don't believe he stated in his application if he was going to live here or not.
Okay, thanks.
Mr.
Mr.
Metcalf, you had a question?
Yeah, Bert, well, everybody, you know, that Linecoff organization is extremely well organized and you know, one of the most proactive historic groups we have, I think. And I understand about them, you know, not necessarily wanting 2 buildings there, but on a couple of the things I read, they were against the tiny house and that it was not in keeping with the historic neighborhood. But my opinion is that it is. I mean, you've got those little tiny shotguns that are up and down Conti Street on the north side of Government. And you've got some little houses, many little houses that have been built in Church Street and the area down there. So that was my only thing, is that I thought that the small house idea was not something that is inconsistent with the area. So I just wanted to mention that.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions of the board? Okay, with the request for the holdover, and Marie, were you able to identify the person in the waiting room?
You're on mute, Marie.
no, sir, I still have not been able to identify them. I've asked them
Okay.
to name themselves and they have not.
All right, well, we have a request for a holdover and we have no one in the waiting room at this point that we can identify. So I'll request a motion from the board.
So moved, Mr. Chair, for extension.
Okay, motion to hold over. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, we're at application 6370, 6353, 6156. Dan Buckley, this is 3535 Spring Hill Avenue. And Maria, if you'll allow all interested parties into the waiting room.
I have admitted Dr. Buckley, sir.
Okay, and do we have anyone either in favor or opposition as well?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, Mr. Buckley, Dr. Buckley.
I'm here.
All right, your name and address for the record, please.
Daniel Buckley, 3535 Spring Hill Avenue, Mobile, Alabama, 36608.
Okay, and your application was previously approved, but there has been an issue regarding the setback that has apparently come up.
Yes, sir.
All right, you want to tell the board why we should consider approving it with the setback issue now?
Well, when we initially applied for the variance, we were under the assumption that the existing survey that we had was correct and accurate that we submitted to the city. And then when we hired a different survey crew to come out and actually align where the building was going to be, he was in receipt of a new survey. And that survey was 8.5 feet off from what we had. And what I've come to learn is that when we made the two lots into one, we made a subdivision back in 18. The city took 8.5 feet from my southern border as a right of way. And so that's where the discrepancy comes from. And we only learned that a month ago when we were placing out the boundary for the actual garage.
Okay, and it appears from the rendering, the site plan that we see, that there's some trees that may inhibit relocation of the garage if you were to move it.
You're saying if we translate it north?
Correct.
Yeah, yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. All right, any questions of the board for the applicant?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Dr. Buckley,
Yes.
I'm assuming that your intent is to, actually, let me go back to Bert. In the previous application, was the garage apartment, did we approve that?
Yes, sir.
The use was approved.
Okay, so all we're doing right now is just dealing with the setback.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now Bert, if the Irene Street had a 33-foot right of way, I'm assuming that the city wanted to get that right of way up to 60 feet.
At minimum 50 feet. So half of the deficiency would be.
Well,
taken.
that's interesting because 25 and the 33 is 58. And he's asking for 8 feet. So had the city just taken it to 50 feet, which is the minimum, then we wouldn't have an issue. Is that fair?
No, I think there still would have been a setback issue.
Sure.
But I wonder why, now this is getting kind of going off, but generally when there's a subdivision and additional right of way taken, isn't that typically split on each side of the road? It looks like he had to bear the whole brunt of the additional footage.
That's not correct. He was asked to dedicate 8.5 feet, which is half of 17 feet. 33 plus 17 equals 50.
Oh, okay. I got you. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question. When we previously approved this, we had the understanding that they would have one utility service for this property, correct?
I believe that was discussed, yes.
So that would address any issue of this becoming a rental property in the future because it would only have one dedicated utility. Okay. Mr. Buckley, Dr. Buckley, do you remember that as a condition?
No, I remember it. I have it here in writing.
Okay.
Bill, I've got a question or two.
Yes.
Dr. Buckley, so just kind of going back and trying to refresh my memory on the previous application. So currently, there is a house, or are there two houses on the property currently that are going to be torn down?
Yes, sir.
And you're going to build a garage in the back and live above it while you build the front house?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Refresh my memory, why are y'all doing it that way as opposed to just going ahead and building the front house? Because I'm assuming, are you living somewhere else right now?
I'm living on property right now.
Okay, and so you're living in one of the houses that's going to be torn down?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Which is mainly for convenience. You know, we can move, 50 feet versus having to move everything off site, put a lot of stuff into storage, and not be present during a pretty big, construction project, not be present, all the time.
mm-hmm. And then once you build the front house and move into it, what are the plans for the garage apartment?
Well, I have 6 cars, and so the garage is going to be filled up with my cars. And then
I'm sorry,
as far as
the above the living space.
yeah, well, as far as that goes, we don't have any plans other than to use it for our own use, through family visiting and that. I don't have any plans to rent it to a third party. I know we already really went through that the last meeting.
That's what I'm trying to get at. Bert, do you know, did we put limitations that it could only be used for family members, or I just don't recall? And piggybacking on that real quick, Bert, is why is this request titled as a use and setback variance if we already
My question,
approved the use? Why is it not just a setback variance?
Well, because we're amending the previous application, the structure's location is changing as well. So this will address both of them into one package.
Uh-huh.
The previous conditions of approval were that the house and garage apartment would be operated off of an electrical service, and that the garage apartment would only be used by family members.
Okay.
so, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
so just to, again, to reiterate that we're only talking about a setback issue now, and what the opposition that I read, the letters that were sent out, from what I recall about those, it was all about the use and the additional building. So there weren't any, unless you correct me, Bert, there really weren't any opposition to the setback. It was mostly the second building again. Is that correct?
Yes, the two people who submitted comments, Carolyn Davies and William Sellers, did comment on the use, not on the setback.
So it's not, so their opposition is not applicable in this case. Okay.
Adam, I think it is, if what Bert just said is that, the use is coming back up because of the fact that they've reoriented or moved the building. So,
Well, that's kind of subjective, isn't it? Or just a technicality?
I would prefer that Mr. Anderson answer that question if he's available.
Adam, that's why God made lawyers of technicalities. Yeah, I understand where the staff is coming from and putting the use variance because of the different layout. So, and I asked Bert that before lunch in some emails that we exchanged about what was before y'all, and I think the use variance and the setback both should be voted on again.
Okay. Any other questions of the board for staff or for the applicant? All right. Marie, do we have anyone once again in the waiting room in favor or opposition?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have any correspondence this time?
Other than the two people that we submitted earlier to you, Carolyn Davies and William Sellers,
They were on
That's
the
all.
previous application when it was first submitted.
No, they were not. They did not comment, I don't believe, on the previous application.
Okay. All right. And once again, any other questions for Dr. Buckley? All right. As stated, the board approved this previously, and I guess in a different lot site plan. And the use and the conditions at that time were that a single utility service, and it would be restricted for family and not for rental property, it's my understanding. Mr. Buckley, you state that you have that in writing?
I do. It's from your office dated November 4th, 2020.
Okay. All right. I think that'll conclude our public hearing on this. Chair, entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just, I understand why the use has come back up because it was kind of a different configuration, but I think from my perspective that the board has already approved the concept with those conditions. So I feel like that we've already set that. I mean, how much better of a precedent can you have than something that we've already approved before? And you know, I'm not trying to take over here, but let's hear some more discussion if there is any.
Well, I think I asked the board if there was any other comments or questions.
The only comment I have that, that just strikes me, it's not just this application, is it seems like we've had several recently that have this similar situation,
Right.
whether it's a, family member, mother-in-law, father-in-law, whatever. And we have seemed to have been approving those with conditions that it, can only be used for family and not rented out. So it seems like to me outside of this application that, that may be a bigger issue that we need to deal with, whether it's in the, new code or whatever, because it seems to be coming up more and more.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Do we know, I should have asked the doctor, it's hard to tell from the aerial, but do we know what trees and vegetation we've already got in that existing setback area? I wonder, and my question is there already vegetative barrier? Let me see.
A buffer.
Yeah, let's see what it doesn't really look like. It looks pretty open right there. Okay, that's what I need to know.
Mr. Chairman, my comment, I'd like to agree with Jeremy, is that it appears that we're setting a lot of precedents in the area, but looking at the drawing that's on my screen, you would think they could orient the property where they could get what they want in this lot without interfering with the setbacks. Just looking now, I don't want to sound like an engineer. I'm just looking at the drawings, and if you reorient the dwellings, you could satisfy the code without getting variances here. And push them to do something or try to do something. That's what you'd probably do to me. You'd probably say, okay, take some of the dwellings and twist them around here so we won't have to approve this variance on the setbacks.
Mr. Burrows, I think that it was the trees they're trying to not, those big water oaks that are 36 inches. They're trying to eliminate not having to take those down.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I move that we approve the application subject to the same conditions that was previously approved by the board.
Okay, I have a motion to approve with the previous conditions as required in the previous application. Any other comments, questions of the board? Okay, do I have a second? Mr. Golden, was you the second? I'm sorry, I never did catch who was the second on that.
Lewis.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay,
Opposed?
Okay, who was that? Mr. Burrows?
Right.
Okay, Mr. Burrows voted to deny, and that was 5 motions to affirm and 1 to deny, so the motion carries.
Okay.
All right. Okay, Marie, can you clear the waiting room and then the application 6371, 350 St. Joseph Street? If you'll bring in the interested parties.
I am admitting the applicant, Zeke Hudson, and that is all I currently have for this application, sir.
Okay. All right. This is the applicant's rep.
Yes.
Your name and address, please.
Zeke Hudson, 3502 Laughlin Drive, surveyor with Rowe Engineering and Surveying.
Okay. And have you seen, or has your client seen the staff's conditions?
We have.
Okay, and my understanding is the staff, Bert, if I'm incorrect, tell me, but staff's recommended for approval?
That's correct. The reason why this application was necessary is that the downtown development district has a limit on the width of properties when you're creating new lots. It limits it to 180 feet in width on the primary frontage. And because this building and property exceed that 180 feet, they had to go through the variance process for that width request.
Okay. All right, any questions of the board for the applicant's rep? Mr. Hudson, your client is in agreement with the staff's conditions, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Anyone have any questions once again? And Marie, you said that there's no one in the waiting room either in support or opposition to this application?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, do we have any correspondence regarding this application?
No, we received no comments via email or online.
Okay. Well, the client is in agreement with the staff's recommendations and conditions. Chair, entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, Mr. Burrows has voted to oppose. We have 5 to affirm the motion. The motion carries. Any other business for today? Marie, as you'll clear the waiting room. Mr. Anderson?
Nothing from me. We had UDC public hearings last week. We were all real busy with that, so I haven't had a chance to do any kind of summary for y'all of what's pending.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Bill, I do have a quick question.
Yes.
Bert, in the new code, how does it address, these accessory dwellings, or is it consistent with what has been in the old code, or?
We are proposing to allow accessory dwelling units in single-family residential districts. So it would allow everyone, if there was no other prohibition, to build an accessory dwelling unit on their property.
Gotcha.
Say that again, Bert?
We're proposing in the new zoning ordinance, the UDC, to allow accessory dwelling units by right in single-family districts.
With no condition, just by right.
Well, there would be some criteria, but they would be allowed, yes.
Would that be in historic as well, or would there be different circumstances for being in a historic district?
I don't believe there's any difference between historic and non-historic. I'll look that up and let you guys know for sure.
That'd be good, because it is something that we're seeing a lot of.
Bert,
The criteria include, the limitation of rental. Is that one of them? Do you know?
I don't believe it is.
hey, Bert, knowing that it's a moving target, but just as it's proposed now, I mean, so this case that we had today, would it follow, would the restrictions we put on it go away? or are they beholden to those?
Oh, again, I'm going to defer to Mr. Anderson on that. In terms of the use being allowed, if the ordinance is approved, the use would be allowed, but the restriction of limiting it to family members may still apply.
Okay,
I don't know. I have not reviewed, I have not investigated that part of the new code for this particular issue.
okay. Just a curiosity question. Thank you.
Okay, any other business for today, Bert?
Well, I can let you know regarding the accessory dwelling unit. It says that they shall not exceed a gross floor area of 1,000 square feet or more than 50% of the principal structure floor area, whichever is less. So the one we considered today was more than 1,000 square feet. They shall not be 2 stories or exceed 2 stories, and they shall not cause lot coverage to exceed the limits of the zoning district.
That's helpful. Thank you.
And I'll excerpt this out and send it to everyone.
Okay. All right. Well, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
All right.